Oh, I can start now. Okay. I don't see anybody in the group, but that's all right. I'm going to take your word for it. Hello, everybody. My name is Matt. I will be filling in for Lori today. If you haven't already guessed that I am not Lori Williams. Lori's got her hands full with a move to Ecuador. She is a busy, busy person at this particular moment, so she's asked me to fill in. Um, you will be seeing Lori. This is a recorded presentation. Minor technical issue. Hold on.
What we're doing is we are going to spend the next 2 hours exploring this strange, structured, written method that was created for the US government, the US military, top secret intelligence, when they discovered that the Russians were getting a lot of our military secrets. And a man trying to defect from Russia with
Gabe, Trixie, that was not my most elegant introduction, but that's what I got. Let's go ahead and give the people what they want. They want Lori, not me.
What we're doing is we are going to spend the next 2 hours exploring this strange, structured, written
Greetings from
method
our
that was
viewers.
created for the
Oh,
US
hey.
government, the US military, top secret intelligence, when they discovered that the Russians were getting a lot
And
of our
I don't
military
hear
secrets.
anything.
And a man trying to defect from Russia with a bunch of documents proving that Russia had a psychic spying program. They said, well, we've got to have one too if they have it. So they went to Stanford Research Institute in Palo Alto, California, and they enlisted the aid of two physicists who had pioneered the laser. That's a lot of the history that people don't realize is that Russell Targ and Harold Puthoff, who Harold just had his 90th birthday, Russell had his 90th birthday, I want to say almost a year ago now. And these two guys had pioneered the laser. And that's a part of the history that a lot of people don't know. They just think, of those guys as being CRV guys, but they really are so much more than that. They helped to pioneer the laser. So, in other words, they aren't stupid guys, right? And they asked these two men to research clairvoyance, clairaudience, telepathy, ESP, and all those things. And over the next 20 years, these men did so much research on into all that they ended up with more proof that psychic ability amid humans exists than the FDA has, proving that aspirin is effective as a pain reliever. And so they actually ended up with more concrete proof. And I think that's a really cool little factoid there. So so now we know. Now, it eventually came to be called controlled remote viewing. It was initially called coordinate remote viewing, and they thought they had to have literal latitude and longitude coordinates in order for this to work. Then they discovered when they started having hostage crises that they were working on, in which the latitude and longitude were not known, they discovered, oh, actually, that's not even necessary. You don't have to have latitude and longitude. The human mind is so amazing, and the human spirit is so amazing. But even more amazing than any of those is consciousness itself. And the secret to how all this works lies in consciousness. So I like to think of consciousness as being like the hub of the wheel. And then all these other methods draw from that. And they're kind of the spokes on the wheel. If you think of an old wooden wagon wheel, so you've got tarot, you've got controlled remote viewing, you've got crystal ball reading or palm reading or Akashic records or, mediumship. All these things are hubs, are just spokes off the hub of the wheel. And the hub of the wheel is consciousness. And that's the key to the whole thing is consciousness. So when you think about consciousness, what we don't know what it is really, truly. A lot of people think they know, and we've learned a lot of things about consciousness, but I think we're still so far away from truly understanding what consciousness is. Now, what I want to share with you all, we're going to jump into how is this method even done? How is it? How do we even do it? And why do we need a structure? And as I share with you some of the structure, because we're going to cover the structure of phase one in this introductory class. And as I'm sharing the structure with you, you might even think, oh, this seems really complex. Why does it have to be so complicated? One of the reasons it has to be complicated is because everything we discovered is based on an analogy that I'm going to share with you that was actually created by Lynn Buchanan. The analogy is that just imagine for a minute that you are the CEO of a big company. Okay, you're the president of this big company. And the CEO of the board of directors comes in and says, uh, we want you to go take a vacation for a couple weeks, and we would just like you to just take a vacation and be away, and we want the somebody else to run the company for 2 weeks just as an experiment. And your immediate reaction is to feel somewhat threatened, and you're kind of like, oh, wait a minute, who's going to run the company while I'm not here? This is my baby. I don't know if I want somebody else to run this company. And they say, well, don't worry, we're going to have your son run the company. Well, now you're really conflicted because you love your son. You'd love your son uh, to be able to run the company and to have a good experience, but at the same time, you don't want your son to make you look bad. You don't want him to screw up and make you look bad, and you don't want him to do so great that he makes you look bad, right? So now you're conflicted. You're like, okay, well, now what do I do? And so you go away, you're in the beach in the Bahamas and you say, hey son, how's it going? You're checking your phone all the time, right? I'll pull my phone up. It's like, hey son, what's going on now? What are you doing now? And the son's like, oh, I've got this great idea. I want to do X, I want to do Y. And you're like, well, why don't you wait till I get back? Why don't you wait till I get back and I'll help you with that? So in other words, you're interfering so much that the poor guy can't get anything done. So then they're like, okay, we're going to have to pull the president back in from the Bahamas and get the president so busy stacking boxes down at the docks that the president doesn't have time to interfere. So, the idea of the structure of controlled remote viewing is to get the conscious mind so busy with the structure that it doesn't have the ability to interfere with the viewer as the viewer is trying to remote view. So, what part of you is doing the psychic part? What part of you is doing the remote viewing? Well, that part of you is your subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is the key to the whole thing because that's the part of you that's connected to that great big cosmic database in the sky that has all the information that ever was or ever will be. Okay, so let's take a look. I'm going to go ahead and share a PowerPoint with you. I'm not much of a PowerPoint person, but I found that I can really get this done in 2 hours if I go through a PowerPoint that kind of keeps me on track. So if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and share that with you now. Let's see. First, I'm going to pull it up. And then it's changed so many things. Okay, here we go. All right. Can everybody see that? Can you guys all see that? Just a second. I can't see you. All I can see is this thing. So I hope you
Yeah,
can see it.
we can see it.
Okay. Okay, good. Okay. So this is my current website. We're working on debuting a brand new website. We're not there yet. It's very extensive. And it has a lot of bells and whistles. So we don't have it ready to view yet. But this is the current website. And you can learn a ton. For those of you who are brand new and you'd really like to explore this, and you look around and you go, "Ooh, this is kind of expensive to take certain classes or whatever," and you're like, "I don't know if I want to explore it because I don't know what it is, and I don't know if I want to spend the money to explore something I don't understand." The whole website is all full of tons of information, free stuff. So you can go up to the start here where it says start here up in the corner there, right under my name. It says start here. You can look at that. You can look at what is CRV. You can look at the classes there. There's a classes tab, and you can read about all the different classes. You can go to the free stuff tab, and there's so many really cool things under the free stuff tab, free classes and free PowerPoints about other things and just so many things about it. And then the blog. I have a ton of free classes in my blog. So if you haven't, there's classes on how to play the lottery. There's classes on if you're already a remote viewer, how to overcome some of the most common issues that some of the remote viewers fall into. So this is really a great website with a lot of great stuff in it. I just encourage you to just take your time. You know, you probably need a couple of weeks just to go through everything that's on there. This is just kind of to give you an idea of some of the things that you can do. And there is a free class. When you pull up the website, a free class will pop up. It's genuinely a free class, just like there's no charge for this 2-hour class I'm giving you right now. There's no charge for this free 4-part class that goes even more in depth than this 2-hour one will do. And when you pull it up, this is what it pulls up, and it just kind of explains to you that in the free 4-part class, you're going to learn to describe the key elements of a target with clarity, even when it's hidden in an envelope. You're going to master the art of separating true psychic insight from imagination so that you can trust your perceptions with confidence. You're going to avoid the biggest mistake most psychics make, and you'll unlock your full intuitive potential. And CRV can empower you to plan strategically, find lost objects, make better decisions, increase your sales, find the right partner, build confidence, uncover hidden truths, tap into your soul's deeper wisdom, and conquer fear. So there's so many things that you can use CRV for, and really to help you get to know yourself too. I took a poll once, to ask my students, because I've got thousands of students now, and I took a poll and said, well, what is the best thing you feel like you've gained from studying controlled remote viewing? And the thing that surprised me was the answer that came up most often, the most common answer was confidence, that studying CRV really helped increase their confidence levels. Now, another way to learn inexpensively is this book, Boundless. Boundless is this book has a lot of great information in it. It really covers like the first day, the first 8 hours that I teach when I teach a 3-day workshop. And so that book is there. I've been, everybody's like, when is the next one coming out? As soon as I have time to finish it. I just haven't had the time bandwidth to do that right now. But this book will really give you a ton of information if you're brand new at this. And here's a little historic photo. That's me there on the right. Lynn Buchanan, my main mentor, is there on the left. And the guy in the middle is Melvin C. Riley. Mel Riley was the first soldier that was inducted into the applications arm of the Project Stargate, the military's top secret psychic spying program. He was the first one inducted in there, and he became my best friend. He passed away in 2020, but just has been such a great friend to me in so many ways. So the three of us, there we are at the first ever conference of the newly formed IRVA, International Remote Viewing Association, in 1999 at the Inn of the Mountain Gods. And there's Lynn and I today. This was just taken last October at the IRVA conference that was held up in Cloudcroft. And Lynn is just such a dear part of our lives. We love him so much. Okay, so I was talking to you about how the part of your brain that is truly psychic, it's not the part of your brain that you think is smart. It's not the smart part of your brain. Uh, the left brain is the part of us that covers analysis and logic and language and reasoning and science and math, writing, spelling, right hand control. The left brain controls the right side of the body, which is why this little thing that you see right there, it's why it's on the right instead of the left. So even though we're talking about the left brain, I put it on the right side of the paper because on your sheet of paper, and I hope all of you have some sheets of paper with you. I hope you brought some paper and a pen. If you want to know what kind of pens we use for controlled remote viewing, I'll tell you here in the States and in my classes, we use the Pilot G210s. um, I don't know if you can see me, but if I stop this, I'm not sure I can get it going again, so I'm not going to stop it. But we use either G7s, the G07s, or the G210s. In other words, we just use a gel pen. And we like to use the ones that are 1 millimeter gel pens in black or blue. And the reason we train you to do it that way is because I'm training you in case you ever become a professional remote viewer. And I train you as if everybody is going to become a professional remote viewer. And the idea behind that is that you can scan your sessions into the project manager when you're doing operational remote viewing, and they can see it clearly. Whereas a regular ballpoint pen or a pencil, it won't show up in a scan well enough for the project manager. Okay, so left brain, right brain skills. When these men were creating this whole structure, and it was actually the structure of controlled remote viewing was created by a man named Ingo Swann, and we call Ingo the granddad of remote viewing and of controlled remote viewing because he's the one who came up with the structure of this. So he's often known as the granddad or the father of controlled remote viewing. And when he was coming up with it, he really based a lot of it on brain science. So we have the left brain again, which covers these analysis, logic, language, reasoning, science, and math. And then you have the right brain, which covers art, intuition, psychic ability, creativity, musical talent, imagination, holistic thought, and left hand control. So the right brain controls the left side of the body. The left brain controls the right side of the body. And when you really are trying to figure all this out, what you realize is that the left side of your brain has no psychic ability whatsoever. And that's really where the conscious mind lives. That's the part of you that thinks you know who you are. That's the part of me that says, I am Lori Lambert Williams. It's the part of you that says, whoever you are. It might even be the part of you that identifies as whatever your career is. I am a teacher. I am a mother. I am a father. I am a parent. I am a daughter. I'm a wife. I'm a husband. That part of you that identifies with who you are is the left brain. And so that part of you we identify most with and feel like this is me. But in reality, that's just like 0.0001% of who you are. And the other 99.99999% of who you are is lodged in the subconscious. And that's where the psychic part is. So when you think about it, that 99.99999% is below the lemon. And the lemon is this invisible barrier that we it's kind of we call it like a membrane, an invisible membrane, and you can't get through the lemon. It's really tough. And the lemon separates awareness and consciousness and the superliminal from unawareness, subconscious and subliminal. And the only way to get through the lemon is to go around it. And the way around it is through the human body. Your body is the link between the conscious and subconscious mind. Okay, so there are 6 phases to the controlled remote viewing process. And again, it's a written structure where certain things go on the page in certain ways. This is not a diagram of the structure. This looks like a cartoon from Mad Magazine. Um, I drew this, so if you have any criticisms, you can know who to blame. It's me. But this shows you, uh-oh, are we having some interference? Trixie, can you keep everybody muted for me? Thank you. Okay, so we have phase 1 ideograms. So the first phase, which is what we're going to be going over today, is about ideograms. Ideograms are a scribble, a subconscious scribble that we make at the very beginning of our session. Ideograms open the door to the subconscious. They are really magical. I didn't understand them for a long time when I first started studying with Lynn Buchanan back in 1996. Gosh, that's 30 years ago now. And Lynn Buchanan would talk about ideograms as with such reverence and so much excitement. And he would say, I could teach on nothing but ideograms for weeks. And I was like, really? How does that work? And I didn't understand, but now I do. And I love them equally much. They're so magical. And the phase 1, when we're doing ideograms, it's all graphics because, excuse me, when you think about it, that little scribble is a graphic. And so phase 1 of the remote viewing process is graphic. Phase 2 is all text. Phase 3 is graphic. Phase 4 is text. So and then phase 5 actually ends up being text, but phase 6 is very graphic. So no matter what phase you're in, you're either in a graphic phase or you're in a texting phase, a phase where you're going to be writing, not texts on your phone, but text where you're going to be writing. Phase 2 has to do with sensory and dimensional information. So what is sensory information? Well, that's information that relates to your senses, your 6 senses. Let's talk about those senses. What are they? the sense of taste, the sense of smell, the sense of sight, the sense of hearing, the sense of touch, and the sense of ambiance. Those are your six senses. And you think, well, sense of ambiance is the sixth sense? I thought psychic was the sixth sense. Nope, psychic is actually the seventh sense. The sense of ambiance, think about it for a minute. Walking into a church, suddenly you walk in and you feel like it feels really hushed. It feels sacred. Those are ambiances. Have you ever walked into a room where people were talking about you, and as soon as you walked in, everybody got quiet and the ambiance got really weird? Or where people have been arguing, you walk into the room and the air is so thick you could cut it with a knife? That's again, that's that sense of ambiance. So sensories relate to your senses. Dimensionals are related to things like size, shape, color. Size, shape, patterns, positions, measure. Those are things related to dimensional things. You know, how long is it? How tall is it? How long will this last? Those kind of things. This dimensional things. They're all about sizes and shapes. So again, that phase is all text. And our mantra, if you want to write this down, our main mantra is describe, don't identify. Describe, don't identify. So the part of your brain that identifies something is your left brain. The part of your brain that is psychic and that can describe something is your right brain. And so your left brain has been keeping you alive for a long time. Like, oh my God, there's a saber-toothed tiger behind me about to eat me. That ability to identify things is important to our survival. But when it comes to controlled remote viewing, then we want to set that guy kind of off to the side, and we want to let that part of ourselves that is able to describe from the right brain, that's the part that we want to be in charge. Now, between phase 2 and phase 3, we have something happen in our session that we call the aesthetic impact. The aesthetic impact was something that Ingo Swann recognized as a turning point in every session, because the aesthetic impact just happens to you when you get a perception that includes both you and the target. So a lot of times you'll see a remote viewer and they're writing on their paper and they're just going, brown, blah, blah, red, cylindrical, tall. And then all of a sudden they go, whoa, this thing is really tall. Well, what was that whoa thing about? Well, I felt some surprise. Well, why were you surprised? Well, because it's so much taller than I am. Oh, now they're having a perception that involves them and the target. So that's a turning point. And a lot what I've noticed from talking to a lot of different people who've studied with a lot of different teachers, the greatest area of misunderstanding comes from the aesthetic impact, where different people and even some teachers I've spoken to really don't understand the role of the aesthetic impact in a remote viewing session. So the aesthetic impact truly is super important. It's the turning point, and it's when, if you've ever watched shows about mediums or psychics, let's say that they hand the psychic the pen of the murder victim, right? And as they hand it to the person, they go, and they have this huge reaction as soon as they touch the pen. Well, number one, that's a form of what we call psychometry. But number two, they've had an aesthetic impact because they've suddenly had a psychic impression that just came from touching the pen of the murder victim. Okay, then we have phase 3, which is sketching. Sketching is all graphic. And you may say, Lori, I can't draw a straight line on a piece of paper. I am like the worst artist in the world. How can I ever do phase 3? Well, we have something for everybody, and we make sure that everybody gets to do phase 3 in a fun way that makes sense. Some people, their phase 3 is total ideograms. Other people can do phase 3 there's a whole variety of ways you can do phase 3. So don't worry if you don't have any artistic talent, you can still do phase 3. It's really fun. And again, it's all graphic. Then in phase four is, we call that the matrix of CRV. And phase 4 is where the bulk of most more advanced remote viewers, it's where the bulk of the remote viewing happens. Now, for those who are just starting out, and I have students who will take basic and never take another course, they'll just take basic and they'll stay at the basic level. In fact, I have some people in my club who have been at the basic level for like 3 years. They just felt like they're comfortable there and they want to stay there, which is totally fine. And they do a lot of remote viewing just using phases 1, 2, and 3. And that's totally fine. It works great. Other people decide they want to go on to intermediate. And when they do, they are studying phase 4 and phase 5. Phase 5 is a toolbox full of text tools that help you get past all those guesses that your brain is trying to make. The conscious mind is trying to protect you at all times. And so you might say, oh, I'm feeling like the target is red, smooth, and shiny. And then the conscious mind says, I bet it's an apple. I bet it's an apple. That's the conscious mind trying to identify the target. So the right brain is saying, it feels red, smooth, and shiny. And the right brain is describing it. The left brain jumps in and says, I can help. I can help. I bet it's an apple. And then you open this envelope and it's not an apple, it's a fire engine. So that's why we get in trouble when we try to identify the target instead of just describing it. Okay, so then phase 6 is another toolbox full of graphic tools. And in phase 6, we learn how to use our bodies to get information like how tall was the guy that robbed the convenience store? Or how much food should I buy for this party that I'm planning? How many people will attend the party? When's the best time for me to propose to my girlfriend? Uh, when should I leave my job? Things like how long is this event going to last? Or just it gives you the how long, how far, how big, how tall. It helps you get numerical and measuring information, measuring through time and measuring through space. And so phase 6 is a really amazing tool. Okay, so that's given you a little picture of the 6 phases of the controlled remote viewing process. Now grab your paper and draw a vertical line down the center of your paper, dividing the paper in half. Now your paper looks something like this, only of course it's going to be much longer, especially if you're not in the US and you're using A4 paper, it's going to even be longer than American paper. Now, when you're starting your real CRV session, you're not going to draw a line down the center of your page like this. What I'm trying to help you see is a way that you're going to organize your thoughts with each side of the paper representing a side of your brain. Okay, now one of the rules that we have in control remote viewing is we want everything to be zigzagging down the page. So you want to remember to keep moving down the page so you'll know the order in which everything happened. So that's very, very important. So you have mountainous, clear, pretty, and then you're like, oh, I like this place. And then high up, cold, windy, and then it's a mountain scene. So you notice how everything is zigzagging down the page and nothing is parallel with each other. So when you have something like that note, you have something on the note, but when you move your eye to the left side of the page, there's a blank space there, right between pretty and high up, there's a blank space. And that's why we want to always know the order in which everything happened. For some reason, it's not going anymore. There we go. All right. Now let's talk about the use of nouns. So our left brain wants to identify everything. Our right brain wants to describe. Well, why don't we want to use nouns in remote viewing? Why do we try to avoid the use of nouns? Why do we say describe, don't identify? Well, like I said, it's an apple, it's an apple. No, sorry, it's a fire engine. They're both red, smooth, and shiny. Well, think about criminal and all the thoughts that you have when you think of the word criminal. Like if I said the target is a criminal, describe the target, you might think, oh, the criminal is sleazy, mean, angry, dangerous, armed, pockmarked, male, violent, dark, drug addicted, sneaky, young, stupid, ethnic, loud, obnoxious, scarred, ruthless, immoral, smoking, cussing, scary, dangerous, you drug addicted. You come up with all these thoughts about the criminal. We have a lot of stereotypes in our minds when you use a loaded word like criminal. So we call that a loaded word. Okay, so well, talking about that, then that's the reason we want to avoid. We really want to, if at all possible, we want to try to avoid naming the target. It's super hard though, because your conscious mind really wants to be helpful. I know what it is. I can help you. I bet it's this. I bet it's that. And then you have to struggle with that the whole time you're in session because you keep setting those things aside. Set aside the idea that it's a criminal. Set aside the idea that it's a beach scene and children playing. Set aside the idea that it's a boat. Set aside the idea that it's an airplane. You have to set those ideas aside so you can describe the target. Because if, for example, the police are looking for somebody, they really don't need your nouns. They just need you to give them a great description of the location where the kidnapped child could be found, for example. So that's what's important. We found that the nouns are often known. What's not known is a description that they need, a description of a location, a description of a man-made object, a description of activity, a description of an event, a description of a person. They just need a good description. Now, as we go on to the next slides, I know a lot of people become curious, like, what about remote viewing off planet? Like, if I want to remote view another planet or another galaxy, can I do that with remote viewing? Or they'll ask, what about if I want to view UFOs and I want to talk to aliens or ETs? Can I do that? And the answer is yes, you definitely can. But what I want to share with you, let's see, I'm gonna go back to if I can get up here. It doesn't want to let me have my darn it, I can't. Oh, nope, nope, nope. Shoot. What is going on? Sorry. I'm trying to get it to, they won't let my little arrow, my little, let's see. Okay. Is it? Okay, there we go. Now I can do it. Let's see. Did I stop sharing? Jim McFarland, nod your head. Did I stop sharing? Yes? Can you see the screen? Can you see my screen? Did I stop sharing? Or Trixie?
Yes,
Yeah.
you stopped
Okay.
sharing. We can't see it.
Okay. Okay, good. I wanted to stop sharing for a
Yes.
minute. So before we go on to the next part, what I wanted to explain to you is that a lot of times people want to get into remote viewing because they want to communicate with ETs, they want to communicate with spaceships and things. And so what I wanted to explain is the important thing is to not fall into self-delusion. Okay. This is really important because it's easy to get into self-delusion when you want something really badly. So, how do we avoid self delusion? And the way to do that is to learn remote viewing and then practice enough that you develop a track record. So, for example, if I do 40 sessions and they're practice sessions where I have concrete feedback and I can look at that feedback and I can say, oh, okay, I said that there was something man made there and there's a car in the picture. And I said that that man made thing was red and the car is red, and I said that the man-made thing was whatever fast, and so I can give this description of the man-made thing and say, oh, okay, so I said these things and now I can score and I can find out really what my strengths and weaknesses are. Okay, so then once I've done that for like 40 sessions or 100 sessions, I start developing a track record. And we can even database that track record. And we have a database and we can database it and we can say, for example, oh wow, there's Lori's got a 98% accuracy rate in colors, and Lori has a 50% accuracy rate with shapes, and Lori has a 75% accuracy rate with describing man-made objects, etc. So you can actually get statistics, and those statistics will show you your strengths and your weaknesses. Once you know your strengths and weaknesses, then you could say, okay, now I'm going to view an esoteric target, a target for which I may never get feedback. So let's say that target is I'm going to describe the grays living on the planet Xerxes in the galaxy of nebulae, and I'm going to describe them. And I say, oh my gosh, I did a session and I described these grays and I felt like I really communicated with one of the grays and it gave me information, et cetera, et cetera. Well, once I have a track record, I know whether I can believe that or not. If I say if I have a 98% accuracy rate in colors and I say the planet Zircon, oops, we got to keep everybody muted. Please keep yourselves muted. If I say I've got a 98% accuracy rate in colors, and I say the planet Zircon is purple, then you can be 98% sure that the planet Zircon is purple. Does that make sense? So that's the thing to keep in mind. We want to be sure that we are honest with ourselves and we don't fall into self-delusion. Okay, here we go. We're going to go back. We're almost at the 20% mark. We're 239 people. So just about at the 20% mark. With one more person, we'll be exactly at 20%. Okay, so now I'm going to go back. And so what I want to share with you is after I had been remote viewing for, I don't know how many years, a long time, I ended up being asked to remote view a target that turned out to be on Mars. And so I have some things from various sessions that I've done off planet. The first one is also Mars. So I'm going to show that to you because I know a lot of people are interested in that. So I'll go ahead and share. There we go. All right, so this is a sketch from that session. I'm not going to talk a lot about the session. I'm just going to show you. I found obelisks on Mars back that were there in ancient times. I knew when I was viewing that I was millions of years in the past, but I was seeing these obelisks that both transmitted and received information. They kind of had a dome-like protection over them, like a force field. There was kind of a vortex thing there. I encountered these beings that communicated some amazing information. And so these are just some examples. And this is an example of a report that I did at the end of that session. This is the report. And it explained how the climate of this planet was destroyed. The climate killed the planet, I mean, essentially. And so that's what I found. I had no idea what I was viewing. I wasn't told in advance anything, any information. And I just had this whole wild experience on Mars. Okay, then what I want to share with you is that controlled remote viewing is essentially three parts. It's in three major parts. And this lamp illustration just kind of points out the three parts that we talk about. And if we think of the lamp as the tasker, the person who needs the information, well, the lamp needs electricity in order to function. And I don't have any control over the lamp's need for electricity, nor do I have control over the tasker or the police's need for information or the person who needs the information. I don't have control over what they need to know. Nor do I have control over the source of the information or the source of power that empowers the lamp. So there's only one thing that can be controlled in this whole scenario, and it's the power cord that connects the electricity to the source of electricity to the lamp and lights it up. That conduit is you, the remote viewer. And the word control in controlled remote viewing is all about you controlling yourself. Kind of like Silva mind control back in the day. I remember thinking, mind control? I don't want to do that. And then I found out, oh no, it's all about you controlling your own mind. It's not about anybody else controlling your mind. Well, it's the same thing with controlled remote viewing. It's all about you controlling your own psychic ability. So here we have it. The lamp is the tasker, the person who needs information. The lightning is the source of the information, and the electrical cord is you, the CRVer. So controlled remote viewing is the controlled use of one's intuitive ability through a structured written protocol. CRV is a tool that allows an ordinary human being like you and me to access our own innate psychic ability in order to obtain detailed information about anything in time or space. The controlled remote viewer, or CRVer as we call them, utilizes the written structure of the CRV process in order to separate imagination from true psychic perceptions. And the CRV protocol is a matrix designed to assist the viewer to explore the various parts of the target. From now on, when you want to remember the three parts of any psychic or remote viewing process, remember the analogy of the lamp, the conduit, and the source of power. Okay, now supposedly, and I don't know if this is true, I think it might be a legend, but supposedly Ingo had a big sign over his desk that said, "Sight be damned, structure is everything." And so what does that mean? What does that mean? It's really talking about that when we're trying to access a target to remote view it, the target really, if you just forget about the target for a little while and keep in mind that structure is everything, that's the important thing. Focus on the structure. Get your conscious mind busy focusing on the structure so your subconscious mind, the part of you that's truly psychic, can have a voice and get through. That's a big thing. Okay, so now let's get a piece of paper and go ahead and just let's take a look at this administrative section of your session. This is a picture of how a session is started. So you'll see it has my name on it, the date, the time, uh, where I was sitting. I was sitting at the kitchen table when I did this. I had just done a workout. Now, why do we care? So what if I was sitting at the kitchen table? Why would I write that down? Or so what if I just did a workout? Why did I write that down? Well, because over thousands of sessions, you can look back and say, well, when did I do my best work? Oh, I did my best work after a workout. Or where do I do my best work? Oh, I do my best work at the kitchen table. You can find out where you do your best, where do I like to sit when I remote view? For years, we had a little motor home that would sit in our driveway. And I found that I did my best remote viewing in that little motor home. I just felt cozy and it just felt like my special place. And I could do my best remote viewing there. So, what about you? Have you tried that out? Have you tried to see where you tend to be the most psychic? Is it a special place in your house? And many of you will say, I have no idea, Lori. I don't know. I haven't kept track of that or I haven't thought about that. Well, try it out. Try creating a little corner, a little space that's just for you in your house or wherever you happen to want to make it, like I made mine in the motorhome. And then see if you can kind of make that your special place where this is where I have permission to be psychic. This is where I do my best work. And I think you'll be surprised how that can be a great place. Now, that being said, once you've established that place and you've gotten to where you're practicing on a regular basis, then what it's really good to do is to try being versatile. Because one thing that never works is if you have prima donna remote viewers who, I can't remote view without my lucky rabbit's foot, or I can't remote view unless I have total silence. I can't remote view unless I'm have something covering my eyes. I can't remote view unless I've meditated first. I can't remote view under the, you just create all these walls and barriers. I can't remote view. I can't remote view. No, we want to be, I can remote view. I'm robust. I'm resilient. I'm strong. I can remote view under any circumstances. I can remote view in the middle of a battlefield. I can remote view in a trench. I can remote view down at the bus station. I can remote view in an airport, on an airplane. I can remote view on a boat that's rocking on rocky seas. I can remote view in a house full of kids climbing the walls. And I sure did. I have 9 children. I raised a bunch of kids that weren't mine. I gave birth to 7. And then we had a bunch of nieces and nephews and other kids we had taken in. So that house was full of children when I was learning to remote view. And it was noisy and I got interrupted every 10 minutes. And it was a tough learning ground. But one thing my mentor, Lynn Buchanan, kept encouraging me was, Lori, you're going to be a really tough remote viewer because of this training. And he was right. It did. It made me a really tough remote viewer. So that's something I like to pass on to my students. You want to be tough and resilient. That's the best ability you can have. Is your best ability is adaptability, versatility. Those are your best abilities when it comes to remote viewing. So you put your name, the date, and the time, and then you put where you're remote viewing, kitchen table in this case, and your circumstance. I just worked out. Then that M stands for monitor. And in this case, I was monitoring myself. So I put that the self was monitoring. Observers, none. That's what the O stands for, observers. Then POCA, Taj Mahal. So I had this POCA stands for Preview of Coming Attractors. And I had it in my mind that the target was going to be the Taj Mahal. You might have it in your mind that the target's going to be a boat on water, or the target's going to be an airplane in the sky, or whatever. Whatever you think the target's going to be, if it comes to mind, you want to write it down right there under POCA, Taj Mahal. And then we're going to set that aside. And I'm going to teach you how to set that aside. Then we've got the POCD, the preview of coming distractors. So maybe the dog's going to want to out while I'm doing my session. And then I told so and so to call me, and they're probably going to call right in the middle of my session. Oh my gosh, I have such fear of failure. What if I can't do this? I'm going to be so embarrassed in Lori's class. What if I turn out to be the first person that Lori's ever had that can't do this? It's just going to be terrible. I'll be her first failure. People really think that. So, so I like to mention that. Then what about, oh gosh, I forgot to pay the gas bill. What if they cut off my gas? So these might be things that you're thinking about. Okay, so now let's talk about how can we set those things aside. Do I have a set aside one? No, I don't. Okay. So how can we set those things aside? Okay, well, number one is excuse me, get a drink. We're going to use a three-part process called the set aside process. And the first part is the most complex of the three parts. The other two parts are super simple. But the first part, you want to talk to yourself like you would to a child. So think about if you were a small child and you got scared thinking there's a monster under the bed. So you go to your mommy and you say, Mommy, I think there's a monster under my bed. And your mommy says, There's no dang monster. Go back to bed. Is that going to reassure you? Are you going to feel like, oh, great, there's no monster? No, you're going to still be just as scared. But if instead of that reaction, your mom says, let's go look together, sweetie. I'll come with you. We'll look under the bed together. And then I'll climb in bed with you and I'll read you a story until you go to sleep. Well, then you'd feel so much better. So I want you to be kind to your inner child. And as you think, okay, I thought the target might be the Taj Mahal. If it is the Taj Mahal, that's what I'll describe. If it's not the Taj Mahal, I'll describe whatever it actually is. That's talking to yourself about it and being kind to yourself. And then you say, so for now, I'm not worrying about it. For now, I'm setting aside, and then write it as you say it, Taj Mahal. Oh, the dog is going to want out during the middle of my session. It's going to interrupt me. But maybe that wouldn't be such a bad thing, because if the dog interrupts me, I'll learn how to take a break. That's a good thing. So for now, I'm not worrying about it. This is the second part. Just say it with me. So for now, I'm not worrying about it. We're all saying it together. And then the third part is for now, I'm setting aside, and you write it as you say it, dog. Oh, I told Sue to call me at 3 o'clock and it's like quarter to three. She's probably going to call me right in the middle of my session. But again, I'll learn how to take a break. I'll just take a break and then I'll resume my session. And it'll be fine. And I can stop and take that phone call. So for now, I'm not worrying about it. For now, I'm setting aside phone call. Oh, what if I turn out to be the first student Lori has that can't do this? Terrible fear of failure. But we're all learning. I should be kind to myself and realize that I'm just learning. I'm like a baby learning to walk. So for now, I'm not worrying about it. For now, I'm setting aside fear of failure, and you write it as you say it. And last one, I forgot to pay the gas bill. Oh no, what if they cut off my gas? Well, uh, it's it's quarter to three. If I spend 30 minutes remote viewing today, then I'll finish at 3:15. I'll have time to make it down to the company and pay the gas bill. So for now, I'm not worrying about it. For now, I'm setting aside gas bill. Now, the thing is a lot of times when you're doing these set asides, you actually realize that you've made some promises to yourself. Like, I'll go pay the gas bill as soon as I'm done. So you want to be sure that you take a look at that when you're done with your session and you go do whatever you promised that you would do. I had a fight with my boss yesterday. I'll go bake him some cookies and I'll go, we'll then go bake the cookies. So whatever it is, you're making a deal with your subconscious mind. If you let me set this aside right now, then as soon as I'm done, I'll be able to, I'll go take care of whatever. Okay, so now I think I'm going to speed up here. Let's talk about ideograms. Okay, ideograms are a written physical language between your conscious and subconscious mind. And each ideogram is a symbol for an idea, a concept, or a thing. And we refer to the ideas, concepts, and things that ideograms represent as gestalts. So, an example of a gestalt is the idea of land. And we all know what land is, right? But there's a lot of different types of lands. There's muddy land, there's steep land, there's dry grassland, there's rolling land, there's swampy land, there's rocky land, there's sandy land. What about the gestalt of water? Most of us think of this when we think of water, but water comes in a lot of forms like ice and clouds and snow. This little girl now is 16 years old, I think. Anyway, so don't forget our favorite snow. So we can see that when we consider the gestalt of water, we're not thinking of water as a thing, but rather as an idea or a concept. So during a remote viewing session, when the gestalt of water comes up, you might find it to be the sweat on someone's brow, or the wine in someone's glass, or an ocean, or a cloud, or a snowstorm, or steam rising from a volcano. So when you're conducting a remote viewing session, the ideogram should come through the remote viewer spontaneously without any thought and convey that, for example, the concept of landiness or wateriness is at the target being viewed. So it's all about the ideogram. The ideogram is going to give you, the viewer, information about the target. And that target that information is going to be very broad and gestaltic. Okay. It's not going to be specific. So the information that you gain in phase one is going to create the foundation for the rest of your entire CRV session. And as you move through the session, past phase one into phase two and beyond, you'll move to the gestalts you found and you'll describe them. Okay, so that's what you're going to be doing. So the first 7 ideograms that we teach in the basic level CRV are land, water, man-made, natural, bioorganic live, motion energy, and space air. Okay, so let's talk about these 7 gestalts a little bit. We went over land, we went over water. What about man-made? Now, man-made could be anything that is made by man, right? Could be a house, a car, a boat, airplane, anything that is made by man, not natural. Natural. Now, natural is anything that is not made by man, but is also not considered to be alive, okay? Because bioorganic and live is anything that is living or has had life. So, for example, if you're looking at a piece of wood or maybe a carved object that's carved out of wood, where does that fall? It falls under biological because wood used to be alive. It was a tree at one time. So, bioorganic life is anything that is living or has had life, whereas natural is something that is not living. So let's think of some examples. What could fall under the category of natural? Think about that for a minute. How about sand on the beach? Those little grains of sand or seashells. Seashells are not alive, but they've contained life at some time, but they are themselves not alive. They're the house of the living creature that lives inside of the seashell. How about rocks? Rocks are not alive, but at the same time, they're not man-made either. So rocks fall under the category of natural. How about a spider's web? The web that comes out of a spider, the spider's alive, but the web is not alive. How about silk from a silkworm? The silkworm's alive, the silk is not alive. So all of those fall under the category of natural. Now, motion energy, fire comes under the category of motion energy because not only is fire always in motion, but it's also energy, isn't it? Like sunlight is energy. So sunlight would fall under motion energy as well. And then, of course, space air kind of doesn't need an explanation. It's just that air we breathe. So even, I mean, even if you're looking at an underwater scene of people that are scuba diving, there's still air involved. But we're talking about what are the gestalts that really stand out at the target. So in a lot of times an underwater scene, you wouldn't get space air because it's not a major component of that target. Okay, so this is my ideogram for land. This is my ideogram for water. This is my ideogram for natural. This is my ideogram for man-made. This is my ideogram for bioorganic live. This is my ideogram for motion energy. This is my ideogram for space air. Okay, so those are my 7 ideograms. Yours may be different. Now let's talk a little bit about shape plus feeling equals gestalt. So I can decide that my ideogram for land feels smooth, and I can decide that my ideogram for water feels soft. Now, why do I need to have a feeling component to this? Well, because the feeling component turns out to, let's see if I can get this thing to, the feeling component turns out to be a key component when you're learning about it, about all these things. It turns out to be really important. So what is the feeling component and why do we care about it? Well, think about for a minute when you were learning to read, right? When you were learning to read, maybe you saw, when you were learning to read, you saw the letter C and they taught you CAT spells cat, right? And so you think about the letter C, this letter C is a shape and a sound, isn't it? It has a shape and a sound. Okay, so the letter C has a shape and a sound, then okay, how about if the ideogram that you are using for man-made, for example, has a shape and a feeling, or the ideogram you're using for water has a shape and a feeling? Then when you think about the letter C, you don't think about the fact that it's shaped like this and it has a sound. You just, it just becomes one thing to you, right? Does that make sense to everybody? Let me go to the view so I can see everyone. Gallery view. There we go. Okay. Wow. We have 10 pages of people here. That's amazing. All right, guys. So, okay, good. We're getting some good feedback. Hey, Nick, I haven't seen you in forever. Good to see you. Anyway, so when we think about the letter C, we don't think about the fact that it's a shape and a sound. Well, we also don't think about that when ideograms. When your ideograms become very familiar to you, then they just kind of have a feeling to them and it just feels like one thing, one way. Okay. So now that may seem a little bit strange. You might go, how does that work? I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me right now. If you feel like that, don't worry about it because it grows on you gradually. Just like imagine that you're in first grade and you're just learning the alphabet and you're learning how to make the shape of the letters and what sound they have and you're learning phonetically. You might feel confused in first grade, right? Initially, you're like, well, I don't know if I get this. But then as you grow, eventually it just becomes second nature. You don't look at the letter CAT and think CAT. You think, oh, cat. You're just thinking about the cat. Somebody leaves you a note and says, please feed the cat. And you're not thinking, just think about those letters. They have shapes and they have sounds. No, it's just natural, right? It just comes to you naturally. You don't think about it at all. Okay, so I am, by the way, for those of you who are putting questions in the chat, I am going to get to those questions. I promise I'll get to them before we reach the end of our 2 hours. So don't get discouraged. I'll definitely get to those questions. Okay, now let's go back to the PowerPoint. I'm going to hit back there, see if I can get this thing to cooperate with me. I don't like the changes Zoom has made at all, but you got to do what you got to do, right? Okay, so I decide that the ideogram, oh, let's see here. I decide that the ideogram for water feels soft, and I decide that my ideogram for man-made feels hard. And remember, at this point, you're not viewing the target yet. All you're thinking about is the ideogram at this stage of the remote viewing process. This is all we care about is the ideogram. And once you're accustomed to this process, it becomes very subconscious, and the conversation's really exciting. So as we practice and practice, the relationship between conscious and subconscious mind grows more friendly. And before you know it, your subconscious mind begins to give your conscious mind ideograms. And then the conversation via ideograms has begun, and it's now a two-way street. So sometimes suddenly an ideogram will pop up and you'll go, I have no idea what that scribble means. I don't know. And the only way you'll know is by getting some feedback. So when you're doing a session, for example, You'll say, I got a new ideogram when I was doing the session. I don't know what it means, but maybe afterwards you get the feedback and it's a photograph and you can look at it and go, oh my goodness, it must mean this thing. Because when I moved to it and I described it, this is what I described. So it must mean this thing. And so if you're curious about that, again, in my book, I talk about this a lot more extensively. Okay, so on your paper, this is what you're going to have. You're going to have the coordinate that you're given, these numbers right here, the 150621. Uh-oh, I think I got a sneeze. Hold on. Excuse me. Okay, I'm all done sneezing. Okay, so the number 150621, 128011, those are your coordinates. And the coordinates are people say, oh, aren't the coordinates really important? And actually, the coordinates are probably the least important part of the whole thing. The coordinates can be really helpful to the project manager who needs to keep track of everybody's sessions. And for example, I could say, well, the number 15 is going to be a police target, like kidnappings or missing persons. And so whenever I see the number 15, I'm going to say that's a target that has to do with police work. If I could say the number 20 is going to be the targets that have to do with corporate stuff. And I could say the number 22 is going to be any target that has to do with health and healing, etc. Right? So I could come up with my own set of numbers that could be data-based, and that as a database manager or as a project manager, I can look at the numbers and go, oh, okay, this is a police target that was given to someone in June of 2021, and it was done by such so and so. I can tell by the viewer number, and this is the first time I assigned them that target, etc. I can get all that information from looking at the coordinates, a 12-digit coordinate number, or they could just be random numbers that we just give and they mean nothing at all. Sometimes I've used people's name as a coordinate instead of numbers. I've used people's names. I'm going to do a remote viewing session on Kathy. So I just write the name Kathy and do a quick ideogram. So the idea of the coordinate is really just about getting your pen moving so that you can slide into an ideogram very quickly and spontaneously. Okay, then I'm going to move across to the right and down slightly on the page, and I'm going to put A, and then I'm going to describe the motion my pen took on the paper when I made that ideogram, and I'm going to describe it. A big loop down, across and up, loop up, angle down, smooth and soft. And then I'm going to take a wild ass guess. Which of those 7 ideograms that I mentioned earlier, land, water, man-made, bioorganic, natural, space, air, motion, energy, which of those 7 do I think that ideogram represents? It could be more than one. Looks like there's 2 there. What do I think they are? Bioorganic live and bioorganic live. One of them's inverted. Does that mean anything? In the beginning, it doesn't mean a thing. As you get to know your ideograms more, then those little nuances may become important. And I even have a free class on that on my website. When you go to free stuff, it'll say free classes. You click on that, and there's a class called Ideograms and Their Nuances. And you could take a look at that. Okay, so once you're done on your page, this is how it's going to look. Take a look at that, everybody. This is how it's going to look. Okay, so then we have things like simple, compound, and complex ideograms. So you can see there in that first card that's right in the middle of the page there, we've got land connected to water. And the one below that, it looks like we've got water over man-made. And so man-made on top of water could look like this. The one below that could be my ideogram for bioorganic connected to man-made. Okay, now let's take a look at this photo, guys. How many gestalts can you find in this photo? When you look at this photo, how many gestalts can you find? Anybody, oops, want to take a stab at that? You could write it in the chat if you want. How many gestalts do you think there are there? We've got the snow on the mountains and the clouds above them, so that would be water. The mountains themselves are land. Got lots of land there. We've got the green trees, so we've got bioorganic, right? Because they're living trees. Lots of grass there. We probably have a lot of rocks too. This is my backyard right now where I'm living. So this is, you can think, well, there's probably a lot of rocks there. I know there are because I walk past them every day. So we've got lots of rocks, which are natural. So far we have land, we have water, we have bioorganic, we have the natural rocks. We've got lots of space air in this one, right? Now, what about motion energy? Do we have any motion energy in this one? Oh, yeah, we could because this is a very natural photo. And when we go to a site, like if I were remote viewing this, it's not a static photo that I'm looking at. I'm actually looking at the target site at that moment. There's probably breezes in the air. There's probably bugs crawling around on the ground. There's going to be motion energy in this picture. There's no way this that you could if you look at the photo, there's no motion in the photo, but we don't want to go to the photo. We want to actually access information from the live site. And in this case, I usually say, let's access it at the time the photo was taken. People often ask me, what is default time? Well, for most remote viewers, default time would be right now. Like this site right now, this was taken in the winter, this photo. But I'm standing here looking at that mountain right now from here, and there's not a speck of snow on there because we're in July. So it is now very dry, and there's no snow on that mountain. So there are some clouds in the sky right now, but the site's going to look a little different in July than it did when I took the photo. So the default time tends to be that you're viewing the target in real time, like at this moment. But what I like to do is I like to tell myself if I'm going to do a practice target, I like to tell myself to go to the target at the time the photo was taken. So I'm time traveling through the past to the moment that the photo was taken so that the feedback will match my viewing and the feedback can match each other. Does that make sense? This is an example, a phase one session and summary example from this target. So here you can see here, Lori, the date, the time where I was. I just ate lunch. The monitor is self. The observers are none. I have a preview of coming attractor of trees and a preview of coming distractor of, oh, I'm late, fear of failure, I'm tired. And then I have to set aside trees and late, fear of failure, and I forgot to set aside tired. Okay, then we've got the coordinates and my quick ideogram. Now you may be wondering, what's that 1 and 2 there on the ideogram? Well, sometimes when I'm feeling the ideogram with my finger, I'll go, oh, it feels like it changes right here. So I think that there's one ideogram that goes up to here, and then there's a little change, and then there's a second ideogram right there. So I do two A's and two B's for that. I do A1, the line sweeps up, there's a little loop, then it comes down and it feels soft. B1, that's my ideogram for bioorganic live. A2, there's a curve and then it goes straight across. It feels hard and smooth. B2, I think that's my ideogram for land. Then I decide to take the coordinates again. So I do again 190209, 127011, and I just do a quick ideogram. I feel it. I say, I think there's two gestalts here. Number one is this wavy line and it ends right at that one point. And then there's a big sweeping, great big loop. And there's the other one. So A1 is wavy across and soft. B1 is water. A2 is big up loop and it feels smooth. And B2 is space air. So now for this target, I've now said we've got, or if you look at my B's, right? You may have heard me say collect your B's. Well, if I collect my B's, I've got bioorganic and land, and then I've got water and space air. I'm going to take the coordinates one more time on page 2. So I take them again, 190209, 127011, and I do a quick sweep up and then down and then up. And I say, well, I think there's two there. I can feel the difference. So I'm going to say again, number 1 and number 2. A1, sweep ups and over, down and fuzzy. And then B1, that's my ideogram for motion energy. A2, it goes down and then there's a sharp up diagonal and it feels slick. And that's my ideogram for natural. Then I do a short summary. I say session end. Now, why did I say session end? Well, we traditionally say session end when we are going from the viewing into the summary. So now I say session end and then I say summary, and I'm going to write my summary right now. I don't want there to be a break, because if I take a break before I write my summary, when I go to write my summary, the conscious mind is now taken over again. So I can get through my day, and I'm going to be writing it from the conscious mind instead of the subconscious. So I want to go straight from my session and write the summary. And this target contains elements of bioorganic, land, water, space, air, motion, energy, and natural. And then I say session end again, and I put the time again. So you can tell me that in this session, it took me 1 minute to do my summary. But you can also go to the beginning of the session when I started. I started at 3:18 and I finished I'm sorry, I started at, oops, sorry about that. I started at 13:18, which is 1:18, right? In military time, and started at 1:18 p.m. And then I finished at 1:30. So how long did it take me to do the session? 12 minutes. Took 12 minutes to do the session. I know how long it took to do the whole session. And it took actually 11 minutes to do the session and 1 minute to do the summary. That's why, since this was a military discipline, they needed to know, how long are these guys spending in session? How long is it taking them to do their summaries? And it becomes helpful even nowadays, guys, because if I'm a project manager and I have a really urgent thing, I might want to look in the database and say, well, who can give me great information really quickly? Oh, so and so. I could look in the database and know that Sam is really great with that. Bob is really good. Susie's really good with that, getting sessions, getting me the information quickly. Then there might be a project in which time doesn't matter. We can take as long as we need, but we need lots of information. Oh, who can get me tons of information, even if they take a while? Oh, well, then we've got Jane and we've got Sally and we've got Nicholas, and they can get tons of information as long as they're not under a time crunch. And so that's what the database helps me see. This is an example of a target that when I did this 2 hour thing I've done before, I took this photo at the Albuquerque Balloon Festival, and this makes a really good target because it's colorful. There's lots of activity going on. The remote viewer's subconscious mind is going to want to view this target. There's nothing evil or scary or dark. It's fun. There's lots of activity, lots of color, and there's lots of gestalts. We've got lots of gestalts there. So this would make a really fun target to do. So I probably have to stop here on the questions just so we can jump in and and go beyond. And Jim McFarland is, I trust his answers, guys. You can take Jim's answers to the bank. He's a wonderful student. He's been with me for many, many years. I would hire him in a second if he was available. So because he's so great at answering questions. So just know that when you see Jim McFarland answering questions in here, he's doing it on a volunteer basis. He's not getting paid, but his answers are very trustworthy. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and jump in so we don't run out of time. We're going to go ahead and jump in, and I'll look at the questions again before we finish. And we might, if we need to go overtime, I'll answer some questions in the overtime. All right, guys. So now what we want to do is we're ready to go and to view your target. And I am going to give you a target. If you give me just a second here, I'm going to pull it up. So you know what I like to do? I like to wait nowadays until right now so that nobody can view it in advance. What do you think about that? So I'm picking it right this minute. I have no idea what I'm going to pick for the target. Let's see what we got here. I'm going to my Google Drive and I'm going to pick a target. Okay, I have picked a target. And if you would write this number down, guys, the number is 700132. 700132. 700132. It's a target I've never given before. We're doing these free classes. So if you're taking this free class for the third or fourth time, you can be rest assured it's a new target that I haven't given before in the free class. So 700132 is your thing. So now what I'd like to do is I'm going to pull up some examples in that screenshot that I was showing you before. so that you have a little bit of a template you can follow. All right, there's your template. So as we begin, you can start with the admin section, put your name, the date, the time, where you happen to be, whether you're in the bedroom, and you just took a nap, whether you're at the kitchen table and you just did a workout, or, well, actually, most of you have just been here listening to me. So you could just put, I'm wherever you happen to be. I'm in my car, I'm in my kitchen, I'm in my bedroom, I'm in my office, and I just have been listening for the last half an hour and a half to Lori. Then monitor can be Lori, because that's me. I'm monitoring you. Observers of the class. Now, do you have any preconceived ideas that you can put as your POCA, your POCA? And I'm going to push you a little bit. I'm going to make you go kind of fast, because the faster you go, the more subconscious it is. If we go slow, your conscious mind wants to take over. So I'm going to be pushing you. Don't get mad at me. POCD. Do you have any distractors, previews of coming distractors? What's going on in your life? When you think about finances or relationships or health or timing or career, just think about your life. What things might kind of pop in while you're trying to do your session and get in your way? Preview of coming distractors. That's what you're going to list there. Just list a few things quickly that you can set aside. Don't get bogged down here. Just write a few things real quick and just put a word or two per line. And you look at this example, I have I'm late, FOF, and tired. So just make it real quick. And then set aside. Now, SA stands for set aside. You're going to set aside your POCA if you had a preconceived idea of what you think the target will be. You're going to set that aside. And you're also going to set aside any distractors that you think might pop in. Maybe you've got a trip coming up. Maybe you've got some big event that's getting ready to happen and you can't stop thinking about it. Things like that are the things you want to set aside before you start your session. And again, the 3 steps are you're going to talk to yourself about each one. And as you talk about it, you're going to say, okay, well, this is happening, but, and then you're going to kind of comfort yourself and maybe what you can do to fix it later or what you can do to take it care of it later. And then you say the can phrase, but for now, I'm not worrying about it. For now, I'm setting aside, and then write it as you say it. And it should just be 1 or 2 words. Then you move down the page and you do that again. And you just keep moving down the page so that it's in a column, like you see in that first section there. So I'll give you a couple minutes more. Again, I've got to push you kind of fast. Get through that set aside process. Now, when you're doing this on your own and you don't have me here telling you what to do, you can take as long as you want on the set asides. It's good to be thorough, but I take usually maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes to do set asides. Okay, then you're going to move to the left side of the page and you're going to write down those coordinates I just gave you a few minutes ago. And then you're going to let your hand do a very spontaneous squiggle, just a little scribble. That's your ideogram. Okay, and we're only going to use 6 numbers right now because we're not going to get into the 12 numbers in this particular free class. So again, I'm going to read those numbers to you. I'm going to just say them. I'm not reading them. I'm just going to say them to you. When your pen touches the paper on the left side, you know you're ready to go. You want to actually let your pen make contact and your pen is there resting on the paper. And then you start writing and stay with me as I say these. 700-132. Do a quick squiggle. That should be, then you go across to the right and slightly down, put A, and now you're going to describe the squiggle. How did your pen move? Did it go upward in a loop? Did it go across? Did it go down? Is it in a straight line? Is it a wavy line? Just describe the motion your pen took on that paper. Then touch it. How does it feel under your finger? Now you may say, well, Lori, I don't know. I'm not picking up anything when I touch it. You don't have to pick up anything. How does that piece of paper feel under your finger? Does it feel sticky? Does it feel smooth? How does it feel when you touch that ideogram? What do you feel under your finger? Now, some remote viewers, when they do the squiggle, the feeling component is more like, wow, that felt really fast, or wow, that felt really bumpy, or wow, that when I did that squiggle, it felt like this. You can have a quality like that too. Like one time I did one, I went, oh, that felt liquidy, and it was water. It just felt liquidy. So, how did it feel? How did the squiggle feel? And then you're going to put B and just say, take a wild ass guess. Of those 7 gestalts that we talked about, the land, water, man-made, those ones, what do you think you see in that line there? Now, I didn't have you make your own set of ideograms when we started. I usually do that and I forgot, but just see if you can sense what do you think is in that line that you just squiggled? Of those 7 gestalts, land, water, man-made, natural, bioorganic live, space air, motion energy. So you're going to take your wild ass guess of the B, and then let's do it again. Let's do it one more time. And I know I'm going fast. I'm really pushing you, but you're a robust remote viewer, so you're okay to handle it. You can always take the free class and reinforce a lot of these later. So now you go and you go to the left side again, and you're going to write down these numbers 700-132 and do a really fast scribble, just really quick. And then you move your pen to the right side of the page, slightly down, and do A, and then just describe the squiggle. You can say loop up, loop down, to the side, diagonal up, diagonal down, sharp curve, wavy line, whatever you want to say, just describe the squiggle. And then B1, that's my ideogram 4. And then take a wild ass guess. Which of those gestalts did you see in that line? There may be more than one. Is it land, water, biological, natural, man-made, motion energy, space air? What do you see in that line? Okay, now you're going to, we'll only do it twice. I did it 3 times in the example, but we'll just do it the twice. And now you're going to put session end and the time wherever you are. Here it is 13:43 where I am. So I don't know what time it is where you are, but you can put your time down. And then you're going to write summary, write the word summary. And this is where you're going to collect your B's. Whatever words you wrote under the B section, that's what you're going to put when it says the target contains elements of, and then you're just going to list which of those elements do you think are at this target? Just list those in a column like I did here in this example. And then once you've done that, put session end again and the time again. So here it's 13:44. I only gave you a minute. I'll give you a couple more minutes. And then you're going to put session end and the time again. Once you've done that, then you're going to want to wait to see the feedback because that's your mind candy. That's your reward for the work and the effort you put in. But if you want, while you're waiting for other people and waiting to get the mind candy, if you picked up on any colors or textures or temperatures or smells or sounds or tastes or shapes or patterns or positions or measures or anything like that, or if you got any kind of a feeling from this target, you can write those down as well. If you had any nouns come in, any identifiers uh, rather than descriptors, you want to set those aside and say, these are the things I had to set aside that we're trying to identify the target. You can write those down, but put them on the far right side of the page. And the left side of the page, you're going to just say, this is what I picked up at the target. I picked up, you could even say, I picked up there was something that was in this gestalt and it had these colors and these textures or whatever. Just take wild ass guesses. Just know that give yourself permission to make a mistake. This isn't life or death. It's just a fun experiment, a little tiny foray into controlled remote viewing. You guys are doing great. I'm so proud of you. Everybody, I know this is really fast. It's because I'm real mean. My students are all laughing. Okay. Very good. Yes. Describe, don't identify, Chloe. That's right. All right. Now while we're waiting for everybody to finish up, I can see that you guys are all trying to finish up. So I love you guys very much. I'm going to show you your feedback now. Can everybody see that? Can you see it, Trixie?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, cool. So there, now take a screenshot because this is your feedback for target number 700132 at the Jal Mahal Palace and Sunset in Jaipur, India. Got this pretty little girl wearing, there you go. Now you can take a screenshot. She's just such a pretty little girl and she's wearing that pretty outfit and she's standing in front of water. We've got land. Who got water? Anybody get water? Who got land? Who got bio organic live? Who got man-made? Who got motion energy? You can see her little shawl is moving. You can see there's something swimming in the water. There's lots of motion energy in this. We've also got space air. We've also got natural, I think, because there's rocks. I don't know what this wall is made out of, but even though there's man-made, we've got a lot of natural in this as well. So it's interesting to note which ones you got correctly And if you missed any that are there, but you didn't pick up on them, and that's fine too. All of this comes with practice. And so this is just to give you just an initial taste of what the remote viewing process is like. And this is only phase one. There's 6 phases. But it's the best I can do in 2 hours is to cover this much with you. And we're already at the almost at the end of the 2 hours. But I love you all so much. I'm so thrilled that you honored me with your time. It's been wonderful. I think we actually had about 260 people show up. So that was pretty good. We had people coming in the whole time, the whole 2 hours. So some had to leave early, but we had a lot of people show up. So I hope you were able to take that screenshot. And let's see if I can. Now, did the sharing screen go away, Trixie?
Yes, yeah, I
Okay,
can.
so I'm not sharing anymore, right? It's just
Yes,
me.
you're not.
Okay. Okay, great. All right. So guys, you have hung in there like soldiers. You've done so wonderful. I'm so proud of everybody. I'm going to look at the gallery view and I'm going to look at the chat. Let's take a look at the chat. Okay. Yeah, lots of people are telling me they're alumni. They really had a good time. Um, Now, Akasha said, it seems like so many gestalts are in most images. Seems like you can't get it wrong. Am I correct? I tend, especially with basic students, I tend to choose targets that do have all the gestalts. And then what you're going to do from here, if you're going to keep practicing with me, what I want you to do is the next time you do one and you get the gestalts, then you're going to move to the water and describe it. And then you're going to tell yourself to move to the land and describe it. And then you're going to tell yourself to move to the man-made and describe it. And as you move to each one of the gestalts and describe them, then you're going to have a lot more feedback to look at when you look at the picture, right? Like, oh, I moved to the biological and I got red. Well, she's wearing that red scarf, and I moved to the biological and I got that she had tan skin or something, and you'll get all these great new things here. Let's see what else we've got here. Somebody said, I saw the mountains in the water. Good, that's wonderful. And then Cindy said, I got water hills in red. And Cindy said, but I had a completely different physical subject. So what happens a lot of times is you'll have a picture in your head that is not the target at all. So ignore that picture in your head when you're looking at the actual photograph and you're looking at what you wrote down. Don't think we're not comparing the picture in your head. We're comparing what you wrote with the picture in the envelope or the picture on the screen, right? That's what we're comparing. A lot of people want to compare it to but that's not what I saw in my head. We don't care what you saw in your head. All we care about, what did you write down? Because look how I got water, hills, and red, but that wasn't the picture in my head. But the cool thing is that a lot of times the picture in your head is giving you information about the target, even though it is not the target. Like maybe there's a picture in your head and you have something red, or you saw mountains, or you saw water, or you saw different things, but it's not the exact picture that is the target. Does that make sense? So you can still get tons of things right. And then it wasn't actually Taj Mahal, but it was a Taj Mahal-like building. And Connie says, "Oh, that was a lot harder than I thought." Padmini got blue, smooth, heavy, safe, squishy water, man-made. Very good, Padmini. And then thank you, Nachama. I appreciate that. And then some people had problems with their internet crashing. Somebody said that Mercury's in retrograde. Chloe got natural colors, huge, sandy, green, yellow, orange, flat, open space, and outdoor. Very good. Then Kat says, rekindling with CRV, you inspire me to keep going every time I come to a live Zoom meeting. Thank you, Lori, bless you. Kat, I'm so glad you're rekindling. And Lizzie said, so if we got a predominance of air, natural, and water, how do we zero into the particulars? So Lizzie, the next time you do this, just move to each one of the things and see if you can describe. That's going into phase 2 and just see what you can describe on each one of the gestalts. And let's see, all right, very good. Okay, I think did I miss any questions that some people had? Oh, and then Starshine said, I love that name, Starshine. That's a great name. Good morning, starshine. I got the image of a man-made and body of water surrounded by land, so I jumped to the ship in the water. Good lesson not to describe. It was a building in water. Well, not to name, right? It's a good lesson not to name. Okay, great, guys. I hope you can come to the Sci Games. I want to meet all of you in person.
Me
And
too.
I hope that you're able to get some amazing bundle and all those amazing bonuses. And I'm going to record that. I really shouldn't call it Tongue Lin. It's a technique based on my understanding of Tongue Lin. So I've changed the name of it to not say Tongue Lin anymore because I thought I shouldn't use that because it's not truly Tongue Lin. But anyway, it's going to be a great meditation for you that I think you'll all really enjoy, and it'll just help you when you need to relax and you're really feeling distressed or anguished. This is going to be a wonderful meditation that I'm going to be recording for you today. So I'll see you all soon. Love you guys. Have a
Thank you
good,
so much.
thank you guys.
I'm standing by and ready. I can talk now. Okay. All right. Thank you everybody for coming. I'm sorry for those of you who joined late and didn't realize that this was a recording that Lori made back in early July. However, Lori couldn't be available, so we scrambled at the last minute, and I'm one of the coaches in that she allows to work with some of her students who want a little extra attention. So I'm going to jump in, and I will be happy to answer any questions you've got. Now, I am not really technically proficient, so I'm talking into Zoom right now, but I look over here at the YouTube channel and I still see Lori talking. I'm going to do my best. You all let me know what your experience is like. All right. In the meantime, I'm happy to answer questions. There was one question that came in from Robin. How is Ingo and Lynn's artwork directly linked or applied to their remote viewing? I don't know. Lin, Ingo died before I took my first remote viewing class. I believe he died in 2013. I took my first remote viewing class in 2015, so I never had the pleasure of meeting him. Lynn, to the best of my understanding, so keep in mind I'm going based on the things I've gleaned over the years. I'm not speaking on Lynn's behalf. They are slightly different things, but CRV can help inform all of your whatever you're doing in your life, especially when it's artistic and creative, because CRV helps us, gives us a really methodical way to help um, train, enhance, and build that right-sided mind, that creativity, bring that subconscious influence into our daily life. So I would have to imagine um, that CRV would help enhance his creativity. And I would imagine Lynn probably did at least some remote viewing to enhance. He's a novelist, he's an artist, just about anything he does. The next question is, am I able to take a look directly at the comments on YouTube? Here we go. Wait, got natural brick. There we go. Question from Martin Andrews, and I'm going to rely on everybody else to help me make sure I don't ignore anyone. Lori describes some things as natural that I would think of as organic, such as seashells, spiders' webs, because they were made by living creatures. So here's the way I think about it, and that is that those seven basic gestalts, they're just the basic gestalts. They're not the end all be all encompassing everything. Think about it as you get a bunch of markers and you only have seven colors. Um, now they're the seven basic colors. You got some primary colors, maybe some secondary colors, a tertiary color if you're lucky. You can you can use those as a launching pad to mix and match and build all kinds of other colors later when you get more training, more practice, have time to experiment. But the seven basic colors that you get will cover just about everything. So bioorganic would be limited to, at least at a basic level, is anything that was alive or had life. Spider silk was never alive. It's a byproduct of life, but it was never alive by itself, therefore natural. Does that answer your question? Thank you for organizing the this Q&A. Well, you're very welcome. And you are even welcome. Ask some questions. One of my jobs, this is oh, here comes another question from Far James Kelly. And while I'm waiting for that to come in, let me tell you, this is a second job that I do. It's a passion project, passion job that I do. For my main career is I work with trauma survivors all day. So this is much more exciting. Bring your questions. Let's geek out about the fun stuff. Does your religion matter? Absolutely not. Um, if you not prefer not to work with certain religions, do you have to? Nope, this is religion agnostic. Can it help you enhance your experience in whatever religion or sense of spirituality that you have? It can, but it's not required. Militant atheism to devout Catholic to devout Muslim, um, Rastafarian, doesn't matter. Um, the essential idea, if you pay attention to remote viewing channels and teachers, everybody tends to agree there's one source of information. We don't know what that source is, but we know how to plug into it, and that's how it works. So no, you don't have to. What is the difference between remote viewing and regular visualization or guided imagery? Oh, that's an excellent question. Guided imagery is where somebody tells you it's a hypnotic state. It's an altered state of consciousness, but it's you get to relax and somebody else controls the ride. Tells you what you're going to see. You're going to see this. You're walking down the path. You encounter a butterfly and it's next to a brook. You can hear the sounds of the brook. That's a fantastic thing, but remote viewing is not that. Remote viewing is where you are in control of the experience, and your goal is to not have a clear experience. Your goal is to ask questions, ask my subconscious mind, what's happening here? What color is that? Ask questions, write down the answer. Ask questions, write down the answer. The best CRV sessions really, you don't end with a clear understanding of what the target is. Or sometimes you do, once in a while, but most of the really good sessions, the viewer had, I don't know what this is. It's kind of like looking, if anybody's ever seen My Cousin Vinny, and they're talking about, okay, so you're looking through this window that's covered in mud and leaves and a screen and through trees, and the target is 200 yards over that way. And you can see all that really clearly. It's like that. You can get a lot of really good information, but it's very seldom a clear, um, definitive. It's not like you're there and seeing it clearly. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you get there, whether it's because some people have more natural talent for psychic phenomenon. But it's like singing, drawing, cooking. Anybody can do it. Some people have more natural aptitude, but everybody can train and everybody can improve. Okay, let me see here. Um, Cheers from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I don't have a Canadian accent. I'll just say hello. Um, I guess crappy, but my ideogram is close. Hey, ideograms are really the core of it all. It's good. How long does it typically take someone to see measurable improvement in remote viewing? Well, that depends on how much natural aptitude you have. It depends on how much time you have to work. It depends on the environment you get to work in. It depends on when in your day you get to work. If you can dedicate an hour a day or 30 minutes a day during your prime focus time, like my prime focus time, my best brain hours are between 8 a.m. and noon. That's the best mental real estate I'm going to have all day. If I can study then and practice then, I'm going to go faster. But if it's 8 o'clock at night when I'm doing then it's going to be a little bit slower. So how long does it take to improve? Depends on what you mean by improve. It depends on, what you've got to work with. It depends on any number of factors. Um, Typically, some people will say that you can learn the first three phases pretty well, functionally well within a month. I'm a little bit more conservative. Just as a coach, I like to allow 3 months to really let the information and the skills sink in, marinate, really get in there. But it doesn't take very long. Okay, I guess no longer attached to living, so they are now natural. Yes, no longer attached to living, and they never. The key to biological versus natural is was the thing itself ever alive? Spider silk was never alive. It's a byproduct, but it was never alive. Bones, however, were alive, or at least part of a living organism. Therefore, they're biological. Do I find that meditation helps with skills in remote viewing? I do. And full disclosure, I don't meditate. Um, when I have meditated, it has helped. Life gets busy though, sometimes. The people who were, I often envy the people who were in the unit and they could do this all day, every day. It's their job. This is nothing but that. But then I stop and remember, oh yeah, well I also don't have, colonels and generals and various flag officers breathing down my neck. I don't have the pressure of time. I'm not working 60 hours a week or more doing this. I'm not in Idi Amin's head or doing military stuff all day. So it's a trade-off. Um, if you can meditate on a regular basis, like exercise, it helps everything. Um, but if your life is a little bit chaotic and you're doing the best you can remote view just fine at there as well. Hard to feel anything off the ideograms. Yep, that's a very common thing. Lori is describing one major way to do the ideogram process. There is another way that she'll teach it later at more advanced levels. They're both valid, and if you have a hard time at first, don't worry. Just learn it. Just try. Just do best, and know that there is something else coming down the line. Can remote viewing be used for future or past targets? Absolutely. Precognition is very common. Um, there is a separate class called associative remote viewing, which uses CRV concepts uh, but you don't have to take CRV specifically to do that. And ARV, associative remote viewing, is used for decision making, gambling, uh, futures, stock futures, options trading, uh, things like that. But CRV, which is quite a bit more disciplined, bigger, um, more detail oriented. Yeah, life path targets. They're very common requests. People come in, I've got three different job offers. I don't know which one to take. So what we do is let's look at the future. You take this job and look at the future. What if you take this job? Look at the future. What if you take that job? Look at the future. And then we can just project into the future on any number of possible outcomes, and you decide which one you like best. There you go. Um, and of course, looking into the past, the future is a little bit harder because it's not yet determined. There's still a lot of free will and variables that can happen that can influence how the past change. I'm sorry, how the future comes about. Past is a bit more fixed, so that's easier to see. I hope I got that question right. Future or past? Yeah, the past is much easier. Generally speak, generally speaking, Lori spent some time talking about the president and how the left side of the mind, the ego mind, really wants to know, has to be able to identify what it's seeing, label things. That makes it hard. So a lot of CRV training is learning the structure and learning how your mind works so that you can separate out the ego guessing and essentially garbage from actual psychic information. All right, still need coffee to start the day. Hey, I'm down to one pot a day. That's all I need. Because if I have two pots, I get a headache anymore. When you remote view, do you write everything on the right? No. Some things go on the right side of the page, some things go on the left side of the page. At more advanced levels, some things go in the center of the page, and it depends on what kind of information it is. But that's all part of the training. It's not very hard to learn. Um, write everything on the right. I wonder because Lynn says A and B on the left and only AOL's on the right. Lori does it differently. The A's and the B's, that's phase one, they go on the right. If Lynn said A's and B's on the left, I've got to assume he misspoke. I've watched Lynn teaching recently, so he teaches exactly the way Lori teaches, or I guess it would be Lori teaches exactly the way Lynn taught her. AOLs, stray cats, notes about when you took a break, when you started. Anything that originates in your logical mind goes on the right side. Anything that originated in your psychic mind goes on the left. Okay. I've experienced that sometimes my mind would start guessing or inventing details. What methods help reduce analytical overlay? Practice. And when you're done with that, practice. And after you're done with that, practice. And the fourth thing I will say is um, what we call post-session analysis, really, is you go back, you've done your session, you've handed it in, you get your feedback, and now what you do really is you look at the feedback and you look at your session and you put yourself back in the session. Okay, when I was writing this, what was I experiencing? How does it line up with this? Oh, and that's that whole process of getting feedback and doing that post-session analysis and self-analysis. It helps you really get your subconscious and your conscious mind synchronized a little bit better, so you get more efficient at the signals from the subconscious going straight through to the conscious mind. Um, well, not straight through. There's a lemon. The body is the bridge between the two. The first course of controlled remote viewing, which is phases one, two, and three, is by far the hardest. All that really cool stuff that she's talking about with phase six and whatnot, that's fun, but phases one through three are the hardest to learn because there's so many concepts. And even if you're already practiced in tarot or mediumship or any of the woo things where sending your psychic mind out, there's still so many things to learn and ways to stretch your mind that I find phases one through three are the hardest to learn. All right, I might have gotten off on a tangent. I'm sorry about that. Um, sorry, okay, in remote views, past targets, still need coffee. Sometimes my mind would start guessing or inventing details. The post-session analysis is the best way to help reduce that. The guessing, the stray cats, the AOLs, they never go away. You just get better at recognizing them. And more advanced courses give you some tools for helping to, okay, this particular image keeps coming up, and I know it's not right. We got tools for breaking that open to extract the good information and help you set aside the stuff that's not right. You're welcome for answering your question. Coffee is a gift from God, as far as I can tell, or the gods, or yeah, whatever's bigger than us. I really don't know, but it's one of the miracles of life. How do you track and measure your own progress over time with databasing? So you do your session, you write up a summary, a report, and Lori will teach you a particular method of writing that summary that's based on the outline, an outline format. You can use that outline format to score your session. How well did you do on this? How well did you do on that? And every point of data gets classified. Well, this is a color, this is a size, this is a relationship, this is an emotion, this is a temperature. Um, those scores, those results get added, I'm going to say get added to a database. You have to do it yourself. Sorry. But you can add them to a database. And over time, as you accumulate sessions in the database will tell you. When it comes to emotions, you are 25% accurate, which means you need to get to a therapist. You got to do some inner work. I'm teasing. Or you're really good at colors, or not just what you're good at, but also what you're not so good at. What do you tend to score low on? Lori was talking about from a project manager's point of view, she can go look at the database and know who's good at what. But from a viewer point of view, where you're interested in improving your own skills, that database will tell you where you're strong and you can decide, do I want to push even harder and become the expert on that particular thing? Or do I want to turn some attention and spend time shoring up some of the weaker points? Like if you're weak on emotions, do you want to spend some time learning how to get inside people's heads and read their emotions? Or reading the ambiance? Or do you do you do well with happy targets, but not so good with disturbing targets? All that information comes out, and it's great for the project managers to know who to pick for whatever assignment they have. It's also good for you to show you where your opportunities to develop are. Okay, has having this skill improved your quality of life at all, or is it just a cool party trick? Um, I wouldn't use it as a party trick. If I were going to do party tricks, I'd pull out a tarot deck because that's faster, or learn some sleight of hand with a card deck, or do some mediumship, or learn cold reading if it's just a party trick. CRV, Lori's going to be mad if I use this phrase, but it's a pain in the ass. It's the structure. You sit down, you got to do structure, and you got to do it exactly this way. And think about what you saw in the video with always going down the page, left, right, left, right. It's got to be done in a particular way. That's not fun to look at a party, and it's not fun when you got people leaning over your shoulder going, "What you doing? What's that? Why is that? What's this?" Um, when we're doing operational work, the client never sees the session work that the viewers do because it's garbledygook to a client. Trained viewer can look at it and go and know exactly what you're doing and be able to get good data out of it. But uh, somebody like at a party or a client, it's not going to mean anything to them. So that's why we set it over as we run it through, we generate reports and let the project manager handle it. So party trick, I wouldn't use CRV. I would use something else. How do you measure your progress over time? I'm pretty sure I just went on a tangent about that. For the last month, I get so many images, like a slideshow at super speed. When I touch my ideograms, it confuses me. What is that? I'm gonna go with it could be any number of things. My very first answer, if you can't tell by the way the rate of speed at which I'm speaking is ADHD. Boom. It's the Robin Williams effect where the mind goes real fast and ideas, ideas, ideas. Now, one way to look at that would be the subconscious. It's like having how did there's a psychologist who calls it it's like having a Ferrari brain with bicycle brakes. Um, so as you get more practiced, that Ferrari engine's ready to go. The subconscious mind's just, let's go, let's go, let's go. Oh, we're doing CRV. Boom, image, information, data, color, sensation. And you just haven't been able to develop the muscle to slow it down. Let's pace ourselves. My pen only moves so fast. That's a possibility. There are lots of mile markers that we look for as people are developing. So even if you come to CRV and you're already an accomplished tarot reader, you're an accomplished medium, you're an accomplished intuitive dreamer, whatever it is, the CRV, the control part, Lori talked about, it's not about controlling others, it's about controlling your mind. Just doing the practice of CRV and learning how to slow your mind down, slow down the connections so that your intuitive side doesn't have to blah 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 get through information through as fast as it can. It can start to trust you that you're going to get the information, you're going to write it down. And it's like a hyper 7-year old. Okay, as soon as it understands it's heard, as soon as it feels like it's contained, okay, and it's going to be taken care of, it tends to start slowing down and then letting the creativity and the information come through. I'm confident I went on a tangent for that one too, but I hope, Spirit Art, that I answered that question for you. Um, Getting lots of information more faster than you used to is a mile marker. And there are other ones that we would expect to come as you train longer and longer and longer. How soon after a session do you get feedback? That varies. If you're doing practice sessions with Lori, that could be once a month. She's got a, club PRV, which is PRV is CRV. It's a branding issue from years ago. She has a club that meets once a month. You get a target every month. You have a month to do your work. You have a month to do work with a partner if you want to. And then you submit your work and you get feedback that same night. Um, Part of your training, however, is also learning how to develop your own target pool so you can collect your own targets and work on them blindly. It takes a couple extra steps, but you can do that. And of course, there are target pools that are pre-made that are available on the internet. We only recommend Lori's target pool, Lynn Buchanan's target pool, or people that we know and trust. If you go out on the internet and say, I'm learning CRV, I need a target, it's the Wild West, and you don't know what somebody might give you. You could get murder, mayhem, all kinds of things that you don't want to be looking at. So we always recommend if you want more than Lori's once a month, you go to a target pool that is from a trusted, vetted source. And then, how often do you get your feedback? And in your work, here it comes. And how does one decide when a session is finished or when to stop writing? That's a very good question. The answer is when the viewer decides, um, at least at the beginning levels. Um, the viewer is always in charge. The monitor can make suggestions, but the monitor cannot tell you what to do. And very often, you're not working with a monitor, you are self-monitoring. So um, at especially at beginning and intermediate levels, when you decide you're done, you're done. Now later on, at operational levels, when you work in real world situations, you're not done until you answer the question. And you will be told what the question is, or you'll be given instructions. You won't be given instructions like describe what the kidnapper looks like. That's too loaded. That's too polluted. But you might get the target is a person. Describe the person, sketch the person, and maybe a few other instructions. And you're not done until you hit each one of those bullet points, every one of those requests. Did that answer your question, CB? CB? CB Gojo? I'm just going to go CB and hope you know who I'm talking about. I use runes and tarot, good stuff. Pendulum, yep. Angle wires, good stuff. Using the body to exercise your mind as a conduit. The body really is even in CRV, if you're doing that, you got a head start because the body is the conduit. The conscious mind and the subconscious mind don't speak the same language and they don't have a good way to interact directly. So what we do is we use the body to translate. To messages go from here in through the body and up the other side and back and forth. So if you are an animated talker like I am, even when I'm sitting alone doing my work, I still engage my body because and we talk out loud while we're doing this. Even if there's nobody here, I'm still talking out loud. Everything I write down, I say it out loud because I want that my lungs engaged. I want to feel the resonance of my voice. I want to my body involved as much as I can because that also increases the chances that I'll be able to feel the target. Um, Everybody's got their own specialty or their own predispositions. I tend to feel the target, very kinesthetic. Like will often do this. Like what am I? Technically, I'm just grabbing air, but I can feel the target. Now, what's the color? Oh, I'm terrible. I'm awful because I know that from databasing, from doing post-session analysis and getting things in the database. So nobody's ever going to ask me what color it is, or at least not expect a good answer, but they will ask me, what's the shape? What does it feel like? And I also know from databasing that I've got a skill for getting inside people's minds and reading minds. Not everybody does that. Some people are like, nope, not doing it. And you only learn what you're good at. I would never expected that I would be good at getting inside people's minds. It's databasing. Um, You only know when you've done a bunch of sessions, 30 sessions at a minimum, 50, 100 is better, more is better, because then you get more data. Okay. Do I see differences between male and female viewers? I do not. There tend to be more female viewers, but I suspect that's a cultural thing. I suspect it's just women in general are more open to doing psychic stuff. That said, of all the different disciplines I've ever practiced or studied, um, there are more men in CRV, which I suspect is because of the military lineage. Oh, well, it's military, it's logical. Okay, that's proven. Um, but that's my guess. I don't know. I've never done any particular studies on it. In terms of accuracy, no. I've seen amazing results from everybody. And I've also seen, terrible results. Just because we have, I mean, CRV is very good, but even the best viewer is going to have sessions that just don't work. There's just they're not working for whatever reason. That's a normal part of any training. Those of you who have a regular exercise routine, for example, you will know that there are some times when everything's lining up and your training is spot on. And there are other times where you're just weeks at a time, you're just not feeling it. CRV is no different. Have I hit all the questions? Did I skip anyone? Let me pop over to Zoom and see if anybody's leaving me instructions over there. All right. All right. I think I've hit all the questions, so I will stop talking. And I believe David or Trixie has more for you. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate your time. Look forward to seeing you in the training.
Thanks, Matt. That was wonderful. My name's David. I'm on Lori's team. And if you enjoyed the training today and want to take a deeper dive, Lori is offering everybody a 30% discount on all of her recorded courses. That includes the basic course, the intermediate course, and the advanced course, and also the ARV course, which Matt touched on earlier, the one that you would use for gambling, stock futures, things like that. And Trixie, if you can put that discount code up on the screen, or share your screen, please.
Sorry, give me a minute.
So the discount code is Intuitive30, gives you 30% off. And also, if you make a purchase today, you get 2 free months of Club PRV. That's the club that Matt described. That's where you would meet with Lori in a small group. She would assign homework. We'd go over it together. She'd give you feedback right there in the moment. We have a wonderful little community, and it's a ton of fun, and we'd love to have you. But yeah, no, thank you for joining us. And with that, I feel like we're done. So thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. And yeah,